Welcome to our second episode of the Catalog Tales podcast series. My name is Aashish Singhvi. Today we'll talk about data governance, what it is, why is it important, why is it hard, and ways in which you can launch a lean, sustainable, and effective data governance that drives value. Now, before you run away because you think it's technical, boring, and not relevant to you, don't. In our data-driven world, it is very relevant. If you work with data, whether as a business leader who's leading data-driven initiatives, or as an analyst, as a scientist who's working to deliver data-driven insights, or a business user who uses data to make decisions, data governance affects you. Today, my guest is Brian Ayers. Brian is a managing partner at Third Realm Technologies. Brian has spent more than 16 years working in data management and has helped multiple enterprises launch data governance initiatives, improve data quality. Brian has produced award-winning results, often combining processes, data, and technology to drive enterprise business decisions. Brian, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Aashish. Thank you for having me today. Glad to be here.
Great. So, Brian, let's start by first defining what is data governance. While the term is familiar to many, but what it means is still understood by a few. How would you explain data governance to a data person who's not a data management person?
Yeah, that's a great question, Aashish. I like to always start off by explaining first of what we're not, right? We're not some band of men who put on black suits and dark shades and, and put all these rules and regulations around your data. People cringe at that stuff. So what I oftentimes tell people is that, we're simply partners. We're partners on the same mission to ensure that data can be trusted and that it can be used and accessed easily and used for the success of the company. Make sure we get the job done for the most part.
True. And there is a little bit of abstractness to data governance, but I'll add this view that, data governance is about making data more usable, high quality, and protected. And more because, data is an enterprise asset. I mean, it's the new currency. We all agree to that. Everybody agrees to that. And then like any other assets that a company has, like people or its intellectual property, it needs to generate value and it needs to be managed and protected. But for data to fuel these initiatives, it must be high quality and relevant. And that's really what good data governance does. It ensures that data has those attributes which enables it to create value.
Absolutely.
So, Brian, let's talk about the next thing. So, if we know that data governance is important, why the adoption is still fairly limited? I mean, the only industry where it has high adoption is financial services and specifically banking, and that was obviously championed under pressure from regulations like BCBS 239. But what about other industries that are also data intensive?
Yeah, I think the answer is revealed even in your question. And as you mentioned, industries like finance, industries, because of Sarbanes-Oxley and because of general accounting rules, because of those rules that are already in place, it makes it so easy for them to pick up, those rules and just apply them into their company and ensuring that they have good quality data. I think in the same manner, the minimal adoption is a sign that we as data governance professionals haven't quite taught organizations or explained to organizations what governance truly is and how they should think about governance, right? And how it adds immediate value. I think that many times we talk the theoretical level of governance and all of these frameworks and all of these things. And although I find that they're important, we should really be speaking their language, talking about how the lack of governance affects the lack of quality of data and drives their business decisions, which that can drive down their bottom line. And so I think if we speak their language and speak differently to them and connect it to what they do every day, then adoption of governance would be better because they would understand it at their level.
Yeah, that's true. And I think one, just the name governance it instills more of that policing concept, the bureaucratic process, tops down kind of thing. I mean, even the definition that's out there on Data Management Institute is a system of decision rights and accountabilities for information related processes, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's important, but it sounds legally is abstract and not comprehensible. And to me, that's really the sense of the problem.
Yeah, and I would even add that I think even if we remove the stigma of data governance and data quality, data governance particularly, and all the legalistic things behind it, and form a partnership and help them to understand that, hey, we're all working towards the same common goal, and I'm interested in what you're interested in. And we take away that legal, that whole legal standpoint of I'm going to regulate you, So I think if we take that away, adoption could be better, but it starts with us. Most of the time as data governance professionals going into companies, we are those change management specialists. We help bridge the gap between the technical and that business side and help everyone understand that everything you touch and everything you do every day, we're working towards the same common goal.
Yeah, true. So, Brian, let me play devil's advocate. We know, okay, there is fair recognition that it is important, but it's not. I think the difficulty is always convincing the executives to sponsor a data governance program. So it is difficult. It's difficult to convince the executives and sponsor it, and companies are still operating. So why should companies care? Care. I mean, why not maintain the status quo and do the way that they're doing right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would start off by saying that companies should care a lot, especially with the age that we're in. For years I've been hearing about this digital transformation age, and I think that we are not just on the cusp of that age, but I believe that we're smack in the middle of it, and even beginning to get into the next phase of this digital transformation age. So I would say that companies should care a lot about data governance and the value that it brings. Data is becoming as important as infrastructure and trade secrets now. I believe that data gives each company a unique competitive advantage in that market. And if they can learn to leverage that data and clean that data up and put those rules around the data, then they have a trade secret in a sense that no other company has, because no company has the same combination of customers or the combination of data sets. And when combined with some third party information, some government information, they have a unique set of data that they can use to their vantage point in their sector. So by implementing data governance and having trusted data, companies can drive their insights, and they can leverage every aspect of Fortify's forces, especially the barrier to entry.
Yeah. And it sounds cliche because everybody says it for any business case, but the education of how the outcome of data governance has a tangible impact to the business. To me, that is still the key. I mean, the top data issues that business teams face, right? I mean, it doesn't show up in the KPIs and reports, like, not being able to find the data, not being able to understand it, not being able to trust it, having data quality issues. I mean, they go back to the same two core objectives of governance, which is to make data usable and high quality. And there are a lot of studies that say, oh, data quality impacts US businesses $600 billion annually. It costs, analysts and scientists spend 80% of their time in data discovery. There is some, loss of productivity. You have these high priced scientists and analysts you've hired, and, they are spending 80% of the data just to find it, cleanse it, rather than really generate insights for business. There is some serious cost and opportunity loss and productivity loss there. So, yeah.
So think about the number you just gave in the 600 billion, right, lost annually. Tools like DvSum, that can be used to cut down the time in finding the data and understanding where the data is and all of those things. That money can be reinvested and saved at the same time, by investing in tools and things of that nature too. So I think it's a bridged understanding of the internal data literacy and the understanding of data in one part, but also, the adding of tools to cut those costs that, those data scientists and all of those people have gained the insights on, that we're losing money, in the billions. But, tools cost in the thousands. So $1,000 solution can save you billions of dollars. So
that's true, Brian. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of a data leader in a company. So as that data leader, I understand I need data governance, but it's just overwhelming. It's cost prohibitive, meaning I need sponsorship, and I cannot convince myself that let's say the critical or the core nature of its value to the business, let alone to the executives, and ask them to be sponsored. So, what should I, as that data leader, do differently to really, bring that data governance to the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I think once you get past all of the, the technical definitions and all of those things, I think you as a data professional would have to pick your poison, right? Many times, we go in and we want to digest everything, and every business division has their own separate issues. And even us as data people and data analysts, we go in and we start to see all of these problems and we want to address everything at once. I believe in rapid process improvements, RPIs. And you just can't boil the ocean. You pick a small subset of something, you apply the principles of data governance, you apply the principles of data quality, and then you improve in that area. And so improving in that area possibly multiplies across multiple areas, especially if you pick the right thing that you know that everyone's interested in. Customer addresses, for instance, that affects finance, that affects shipping and transportation, that affects legal, that affects so many different departments, and they're probably having the same pain and problem. And so picking that one thing and applying those governance principles amongst your stakeholders, and then leveraging that data and starting to see how this thing can replicate across, I think will always get buy-in from amongst the people once they see it at work. Too many times they hear professionals in our industry talk about what governance can do, but never apply what governance can do. And so you pick that small subset, you start small, and you cause that thing to replicate out inside of your organization. And I think that's the best way as a data management professional to step into their company and really cause success in their company with their governance programs.
Yeah, I mean, this point about, again, everybody says, start small, quick wins, but that is still the key. I mean, in data governance, and if in my view, also, if you look from governance as a program, I mean, requires like any people, process, and technology, all of them. I think as talking to business leaders who have been successful in rolling out data governance, it's the same three things. From a people standpoint, we need to start lean. You don't need to create a Jedi council and a governance council and a data stewardship program to really get it off the ground. Maybe at some point you do. And then even from process standpoint, it's not one size fits all. I mean, there are certain data sets which have, let's say, PII information that might require a higher level of governance. But if there is data that is being used only for, advanced analytics, where it probably can be cleaned and processed, I mean, you don't need to have the same level of high quality in the data governance process. So, being able to apply the right level of governance. And even from a technology standpoint, I mean, technology is an enabler, but, a lot of times people get into, there are like graveyards of data governance tool implementation failures because it's just too many. You have policies and access, etc. You can start with a data catalog before you roll out a full scale data governance solution. So I'm in full 100% alignment with you that I think starting small and being able to show that value and connecting it to the business transformation initiatives really is the way to launch it off the ground, let alone sustain it over a longer period of time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you bring up a valid point with especially with data catalogs. I find going into companies and working with data management professionals that many times the people who use the data every day don't even know what the data is or what it means or what it's used for. And so in understanding the business context and things of that nature, data catalogs are wonderful. And even if your organization can't afford a tool, right away, start off in Excel, start off in some free tool. And then as you look and you grow in your maturity and understanding what those things are and understanding the business context of how 3 different divisions use the same data element itself. And then, looking for that tool that you can grow into, and grow up with is important, as you start to explore a more comprehensive enterprise-wide solution than a data catalog.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And in fact, a lot of our customers at DvSum, that is basically the journey that start with, right? Everybody has, I mean, you ask any company, they will say, yeah, we have some form of a business glossary. And most likely it is in Excel. Dictionaries are more, spread across the different systems, but usually, I mean, organizations that have that recognition that I should have a glossary centralized and I should have a catalog, I think they already have a first step towards data governance. And then, as the process gets a little bit more mature, using tools, just helps them get more standardized repeatability and expand it within the organization.
Absolutely.
That's great. That's great. No, that's great insights, Brian. So, tell me about third realm technologies and how are you helping companies with data governance?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I'm a managing partner and founder of Third Realm Technologies. I really, it was a dream come true really for me because I love data. I consider it a bona fide data geek. And I love, just seeing companies being successful. I love the insights that companies gain from their information and they drive those things into the next Tesla, the next great thing that's out in the industry. But Third Realm, we help organizations, and we long to help organizations with their data governance and data quality through consultancy. Mainly our professional services focus on helping organizations start up and expand their growth in their data programs and in their data journey. So we patiently work with our stakeholders and help them with change management and pick govern the governance in a sense, and kind of get them organized around how their governance program should look, not just according to DAMA or DIMBOK standards, but how those things look in their organization. And so we kind of do that tailored to fit type of data governance, and we help people frame those things out and take those applicable points in their journey. And moreover, we pride ourselves in helping our clients find the perfect tool that helps them along their journey. Great tools like DvSum.
Yeah. Yeah. And Brian, I know you and I have worked also in the past, and I think the reason I feel third realm approach is different is that many of there are other data governance consulting organizations, but they again go in with a heavy bat, to every customer. And when you go with that heavy bat, I mean, it's like using a jackhammer where you probably need a fly swatter, or I don't know if that's the right analogy, but you get the point. So I think the approach that you take, and I mean, when we worked together in the past, I recall that your approach wasn't to boil the ocean. It was like, hey, let's get started with just documenting our attributes of our product, and that's the start. And being able to find those, what is the quick low hanging fruits to really start convincing the value within the organization and then roll it out. I think that's to me that is the best way, and I think that's the approach that Third Realm is taking. So that's
you bring up when we worked with before together. That was a perfect example of that would be a perfect example of how I would explain to a client to start out. Start with something small, but that small application of governance and quality principles ended up causing that particular company to reduce their SLA to the time of getting a product data clean, pristine, and into a system and operational. It went from a 5-day period to almost a 1-day period with masses of information. And so working with you and working with DvSum, turn our world around to the point where we were a well-oiled machine. And getting into my geekiness, with statistical process controls and looking at keeping things into 3 standard deviations, you saw this thing literally come to what the science speaks of. You saw the numbers, go outside of being above or below the upper and lower control limits to being streamlined in the middle, and just not something that was a false reading, but now you could see this, and the business stakeholders even noticed it. So, I just encourage anybody who's on this journey, to definitely start small, and if you don't know what you're doing, call on Third Realm. We'll come in and help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that. Well, I think that was we are out of time, Brian, but that was a fantastic chat. Excellent insights, and thank you for sharing your perspective on that.
Thank you very much for having me, Aashish.
For the audience, if you're looking to revamp or launch a data governance in your organization, I definitely recommend that you speak to Third Realm. And when it relates to bringing in technology that can help, I would love to have a chat with you and talk to you about our augmented data catalog solution that can help you launch a lean, sustainable, and effective data governance program fast. Cheers.